Hello, on this video, we will try to install an HTTPS secured WordPress instance on Amazon. To be able to do that, we first need to log into our Amazon account. Open the EC2 under the Compute tab, and then click the instances link in the left side. So in this page, we will see the list of the previously created EC2 instance. Now we need to launch a new one. So we click launch and then click House Marketplace and search for WordPress. Now there are several images that you can use to install WordPress. The most common one is the image created by Bitnami. So we will select this one. Press continue. And then you can choose the type of processor that you want. So in this case, since we are just testing, we will be using the T2 Micro, which is eligible for the free tier. Then we click the next button. Now in this page, we will create only one instance, and then here we will set up the network, so we will just use the default for this page. Next, we will need to add the storage. So here we will set up the amount of hard disk that we will need for this instance. Let's say 40 gig. Then the add tag, so it's just a way to identify your project. Let's call it templates and vectors. This tag can be used later when you are setting up security or something else. So next is the security group. In this case, you can either create a new security group or select an existing group. So since I already have a security group for WordPress instance, so I'll just select this one. So when you create a new WordPress instance, you should have this security group available. So our instance is not eligible for pre-tier usage because I increase the amount of gig for the hard disk. Normally if you select 30 gig, it should be free. Then we will launch our instance. So here you can create a new pair. So this pair is the file that you will use in your Footy program to log in remotely in this instance. So we'll launch our instance. It might take time, so now we have our newly created instance. So normally we change the label here. We change the name for easy identification. So let's say I want to call it templates and vectors. After that, we need to assign a static IP to our newly created instance. To do that, go back in the left side and click the elastic IPs. Normally, when you create a new instance, you are entitled to one free elastic IP. So we will allocate a new address, and then again let's put a label to that for easier identification. Templates and vectors. And then we associate this IP address to our instance. Now, our instance is accessible via this IP address. Now, with Amazon, we are entitled with a free certificate. But to be able to use that with WordPress, we need to create a load balancer. So again, we go to the left side and click the load balancer link. Click create new load balancer, and in this page, we select the application load balancer. Now again, we need a name. Normally, I use a common name for related objects so it's easier to identify. Then we add the HTTPS listener. So this will enable our site to handle HTTPS requests. And then the BPC, or yeah. So normally I select all the availability zone. Then click next. Now in this page, if you already have your certificate, you can select it here. But in our case, we don't have it yet, so we request a new certificate from Amazon. Now again, this certificate is free. So our domain is templates and vectors.com. Now if you have a subdomain, we normally add a wildcard like this. So click next, and then provided that our domain is registered in Amazon, so we will likely select the DNS validation because it's easier that way. Now review your domain certificate creation. So now we have this information. Click confirm and request. Yeah, it's still loading, but yeah. So now, like I said earlier, it's easier to link the certificate to our DNS if it's already in Amazon. We just need to click this create record in Route 53 button. Yep, create. Hosted zone is templates and vectors. I'll show that to you later. Then create the other one. Then continue. So it may take some time before the validation is completed. Once the certificate is issued, we should now be able to select it in the load balancer creation screen. Just click refresh, and we should be able to select the newly created certificate. Click next, and then here we can select the WordPress security group. Now this is the routing target. For this we can create a new one, templates and vectors. Make sure that the target type is instance so that we can point it to our EC2 instance. Then click next. Then we select our EC2 instance that we created earlier. Add to registered. Then click next. So review the configuration, and once you're satisfied, click create. Now, the new load balancer should appear on the list of load balancer page. Next, we should get the DNS name and translate it to an IP address. We can do that by using the website dnslookup.org. Then type the load balancer address and then hit lookup. Alright, it might take some time before the load balancer is actually created on Amazon. So as you can see, the state is provisioning, so we need to wait a while. So once the status of the newly created load balancer changed to active, we can now try to look up the IP address again. Actually, it will generate two IP address, but the first one is the real one. So if we want to use this load balancer in our application, then we will use this IP. Thankfully, in Amazon, we can directly link our domain name to the load balancer. So in Amazon, hit services and then route 53. Click hosted zones and then select your domain name. Now we need to create a new A record set. So let's hit the create record set, then alias set to yes, and then select the newly created load balancer. In this case, it's templates and vectors. Then create. So at this point, when we type templates and vectors in the URL, it should show the page, the newly created WordPress instance installed on the EC2 instance. But I think it will take time before Amazon server is updated, so let's wait a bit. And after some time, once Amazon propagated its server, our WordPress installation should be accessible. So as you can see, it's now live. It's now running on Amazon. However, it's not yet secured. To be able to do that, I'll provide a URL with a list of steps. So basically, we just need to do some configuration in the application level, meaning in WordPress. And after some time, we may want to connect in our EC2 instance, maybe to upload files, and then maybe we wanted to access the phpMyAdmin. We can't do that in the public URL. So to do that, we need to use PuTTY and set up the tunnel. So first, we need to get the IP address of the EC2 instance. We can look it up in the EC2 instance configuration description tab and then copy the public IP, IPv4, paste it here, and then click SSH authentication and then browse our private key. So it's the one we created earlier. And then in tunnels, we need to forward a port from our machine to the EC2 instance. For example, port 8888, and then localhost, which is the Amazon instance, port 80, because WordPress is running on port 80. So we may want to save this one. Let's name it templates and vectors. Save, then open. There are actually two users available that we can use, Bitnami and Ubuntu. So in this case, let's try Bitnami. So now we are inside our EC2 instance. If we will look at the directory of the application, so we have WordPress and phpMyAdmin. phpMyAdmin should now be accessible locally. By the way, common mistake is that you forgotten to set the tunnel. So if the page doesn't load, check the tunnel again. phpMyAdmin's default user is root, and then you can check the password in this file, Bitnami credentials. So to see that, just use cat Bitnami credentials, so it should show the password. And I think that's it. So again, we install and configure a WordPress instance in Amazon. secured it via HTTPS using a load balancer, and this is the application configuration which we should do in WordPress configuration to be able to redirect to HTTPS. And finally, to be able to access PHPMyAdmin, or if you want to upload files, you must configure footy by using your key and then setting up the tunnel. And that's it. I hope I help you in your Amazon WordPress exploration. Bye!